All right, welcome everyone. It's 3:30 on Friday afternoon, and once again, we're here for a small grains for brewing and distilling and other craft beverages happy hour. And with us today is Jessie Bussard from the Craft Maltsters Guild. She's the executive director, and she'll be presenting all about craft malting as a movement and a way to change uh, small grain value chains and how we think about where we procure our raw materials for craft beverages. And one housekeeping note, Jessie said, if you want to jump in with questions during the presentation, feel free to do so. Also, if you want to pop them into the chat, we'll be reading those and we can do it that way. But I'm looking forward to a great presentation. And without further ado, Jessie, take it away.
All right, thanks for having me, Ryan. It's so great to be here today. I'm excited to present. First off, cheers to Friday. Obviously, that's something to be excited about. I hope you like my little cheers gift that I found. If you're like me, a person like me who grew up in the 90s, you'll recognize this gif as a scene from The Simpsons. So I just thought it was funny, and it's very kind of telling too. You know, the beer's on fire, and it's kind of like that's what I think about when I think of the craft malt movement. I think of this reinvigoration and reigniting of interest in malt. Can you not see it?
Nope, it's not gifting yet.
Oh, well, who knows? It's doing it on my end. It might just not be doing it on that end.
Yeah.
Never mind. Okay. Don't worry about it.
As long as we can read the slides.
Yeah. Anyways, hi, I'm Jessie, as I already said. A little bit about me. Ryan gave a great kind of summary of my background on his intro about me in his emails. But I live in Montana, and my best friend is this handsome hound here with me in this photo. That's Boudreaux. He's a German boxer, and he's about 6 years old. And he's pretty much the most important thing in my life, other than, well, craft malt, probably. And if you want to know exactly where in Montana I am, I'm in Bozeman, Gallatin County. So just a little north of Yellowstone National Park and about 2 hours from Yellowstone. And I would say we're probably like 6-ish hours from Glacier National Park. Why are the slides not advancing? That is weird. Let's try this again. I'm gonna close all this stuff down. You can see my screen, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe stop sharing and reshare.
Also, you're not in presentation mode.
Let's see. Stop sharing. Share screen. How about now? What do we see?
Slide 2.
Yeah, I can see slide 2.
Okay, now what? Now can you see the screen?
Presenter mode, yes. Slide 1.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Sorry for that technical difficulty.
No worries. More action.
All right.
We're used to it.
We're used to it. All right, so if you didn't get to see this slide, here's the slide I was trying to show you about with the picture of me and my dog and where I live. I'm the executive director of the Craft Maltsters Guild. A little bit about the Guild. Our mission is to promote and sustain the tradition of craft malting in North America, provide services and resources to our members, and uphold high quality and safety standards for craft maltsters. And we do that by working with people up and down the supply chain. So everyone from the barley grower and the plant breeders at the beginning of that journey, the whole way through to the craft maltsters and brewers and distillers at the end. The craft malt movement, a few things you should know about it. It's a grassroots movement. And that can be seen by the fact that it was founded in 2013 by 8 craft malt houses. So it really did grow from the ground up. It's a grassroots movement. The people that started this, they're small batch independent maltsters. And their goal was to bring heart, diversity, relocalization, and excitement to the malt marketplace. One of the things that we do is we put a heavy emphasis on quality and craftsmanship in all of our events and programs. And we believe craft malt has the ability to influence positive changes and improvements in the malting industry through knowledge, communication, and transparency. One of the big things that we as a guild do is we have defined craft malt. We do that mainly so we can kind of, differentiate ourselves in the marketplace, obviously, and kind of also educate consumers on what craft malt really is. And in our organization defines a craft malt house or a craft maltster as a small operation. So they produce between 5.5 to 11,000 US tons per year. They're local. So they're going to be growing or sourcing 50% or more of the grains they use within a 500-mile radius of their malt house. And they're going to be independent. So they're going to be at least 76% majority independent owned or more. And that's just kind of showing that, they're not being supported by like larger corporate interests and things like that. And back in 2019, we did a benchmarking survey with New Growth Associates, which is a Michigan-based company. We were able to determine from the data that was collected from 45 craft malt houses across the US that the average US craft malt house is about 6 years old. Probably 7 now. And it was started in 2014. Typically, most of them are LLCs. They purchase raw, conventionally grown grains directly from farmers without a contract, usually. And they test all incoming raw grains and outgoing malts for quality parameters with a third party. So they're going to be working with folks like Aaron McLeod at Hartwick, or Hannah Turner at Montana State, or CMBTC up in Canada, or even possibly in the near future, Colorado State University when they get their malt quality lab up and running. Other things, they're typically using small systems. So from our data in 2019, we were able to determine that the average maltster was using a 4-ton system, and they're using mostly 2-row barley varieties, though there are many maltsters that are malting a lot of other types of grains and other types of barleys, like 6-row. And most of these maltsters are selling direct to commercial breweries in their own state. Currently, the Guild has 68 malt house members, and this is a map of the current kind of outlay of membership. You can see we have members up in Canada and all over the US. As far south as Austin, Texas, and as far north as up here in Edmonton, Alberta, and even over in Prince Edward Island over there on the east side, which is kind of cool. But one thing to point out, our members span the malt supply chain. It's not just about craft maltsters. To date, we're at about 550 total members. And this is kind of the breakdown for our membership. Member malt houses are only a little less than 20% of our actual membership. That what's really driving us these days is the individual brewery and distillery members that are coming on board, and which is really great to see. The end user of malt getting more active and interested in the ingredients that they're using, and wanting to learn more about that. So you also see we have individual members. Those would be folks like Ryan, who works at a university, or somebody like Mike Davis that works at a partner organization. Allied Trade is about 10%, and those are people that are going to be anywhere from an equipment manufacturer supplier like Casper Schultz to a seed supplier like Lima Grain. And then we also have international and developing malt houses. In that category, it's not quite clear like what percentage is what. I'm hoping in the future we can kind of break this membership category out into 2, so we can more clearly define how many international members we have, because it's definitely an area we've seen more growth over the past year. I think, just like for one example, taking the Craft Malt Conference and making it virtual made it a lot more accessible to people all over the world. And so we actually brought in more international members over the past year because of offering that virtual event. And then also the other thing that we did this year was we opened up our Malt Cup competition to International Malt House members as well. And so for the first time ever, we were getting international entries into our malt competition. And one of them even took home a medal this year. Believe it or not, a Pilsner malt from Italy. I think it was third place this year. So lots of cool stuff happening there within our membership and just the way it's changing and evolving. So I'm going to get into the question now about why craft malt. You know, we've talked a little bit about what it is and who are the people that are part of it. The short answer I'm going to give you is because malt matters. And we all know hops has gotten the glory for a long time, and malt's kind of been, you know, the redheaded stepchild nobody wanted to acknowledge for a while. Like, and I also feel like, you know, prohibition and things like that, and just the rise of lager through you know, the early days of the beer industry after prohibition, like it really took the emphasis off malt because it was more about just making like a standardized beer that tasted the same all the time and how to make it cheaper. And I don't know. I just feel like malt became commoditized to the point that people almost forgot that it was the foundation of flavor in their beer. So I'm really excited that craft malt is kind of just reigniting that conversation about malt. And my hip answer to why craft malt matters is because craft malt is the new hops. One brewer says craft malt is the key to bringing integrity back to craft brewing, not only restoring honesty and claims to the craft ideal, but also allowing for local character and flavor to be brought to the glass. And I tend to agree with him. Some of the just basic reasons, though, for craft malt. One, local economic impact is huge. Buying locally grown and produced ingredients is good for your community. And here's another piece of data from Michigan. The economic impact of beer. Megan Phillips Goldenberg did this research for the 2018 Guide to Local Food in Southeast Michigan. And when she looked at macro versus local craft beer, it was comparing apples to apples, 6-packs to 6-packs. A local brewed 6-pack that is independently and locally owned, uses local labor, buys local ingredients, and uses a local distributor to convey the product to a locally owned retailer, represents approximately 2.5 more times the local economic value of a domestic macro brewed 6-pack. So I think that, 2.5 times the economic impact is huge. So, when brewers are buying locally, they're having a really positive impact on their community, and they're helping that community to be, robust and profitable, and just it really benefits the rest of the supply chain. Because when we look at this, even this is from the same publication, it kind of breaks it out a little bit more, showing how there's more money, and the money goes more back to the farmer if you're buying locally because you're not shipping products as far. It's better for the land. I don't know, there's a lot you could go and argue about with here on local impact. Obviously, case by case situation. For example, if you're buying malt from a local craft maltster that's halfway across the state or on the complete other side of the state, it may not be cheaper and it may not be better for the environment. So, there's a little nuances there you have to think about on that with that. But overall, the local economic impact from using local ingredients is quite more significant than buying from your mass-produced kind of commodity type supplier. What about the premium price? This is always something people bring up. And I like to quote Caleb Mashaki from Sugar Creek Malt because he really just sums it up really well. Caleb says our malt is about 20 to 30 cents per pound more than what can be purchased from North American Big Malt. That price difference comes down to less than 5 cents per 12-ounce can or pint, a nickel. And as Caleb says, you have a story to tell about how your purchasing helps your local economy. So I would say, 5 cents, raise your price of your beers 5 cents. You'll cover the cost of the local ingredient, and you'll have a new story to tell to sell your product to your consumer. If you want to read more about Caleb's, spiel on why craft malt, you can head over to his website. He has a whole, he called it his Maltfesto, which is a great title. I'm sure all of you will get a chuckle out of that, but it's a great read. Definitely worth checking out. Okay, reason 2, relationships. We can't deny that working with a craft maltster, you're getting a more intimate, close relationship with the person that's producing your product. If you're buying from, say, the bigger suppliers, you're gonna have a sales rep, but they're not the person that's malting your barley. They're not the person that is working with the grower directly one-on-one. So I think you're just getting a lot more unique, tailored experience when you're working with these smaller scale producers. And really, too, when it comes down to it, I mean, you're creating really strong relationships that are going to last you for years throughout your business, and your business is going to be strengthened by that. And the other cool thing about craft maltsters is, if you look at this one picture here, a Blue Ox Malt House, that's David Brand. He has this little sign that says "Demonstrations, hot steep, revolutionizing beer. Ask us." And craft maltsters are willing to go the extra mile to sit down with you and do a hot steep sensory analysis of their malts, and just really get into the nitty gritty details about what makes the malt so great. Reason 3, diverse methods and products. So craft malt has spurred a ton of innovation and research on the plant breeding side, and so you're seeing lots of more regionally adapted local varieties coming out of this, and efforts like AMBA's National Barley Improvement Committee lobbying, really helps to drive and fund a lot of this. So it's great. And then you have just diversity of methods. So you've got this guy on the left who's floor malting, and then you've got the guy on the right, he's doing a mechanized malting system. And if you're wondering who those folks are, the guy on the left with the floor malting operation, that's Dennis Nessel from Hudson Valley Malt up in New York. And then this is Sebastian Wolfram on the right from Epiphany Craft Malt in North Carolina. So, I mean, that's the other cool thing about the just diversity of methods and products here. I mean, you can work with a floor maltster, you can work with somebody using a mechanized system, you can create custom products. It's really just the opportunities and the options and the things that you can do, the possibilities are a lot broader and greater in the craft malt space. And then the end product, where brewers are getting to experiment more with flavor with the diversity of products and methods that these maltsters are using. Also, another thing I should point out is that on the other end of the spectrum with research and development, you're seeing really interesting research being done on the malt sensory side. I think because of the discussion that craft malts reignited around malt sensory and malt flavor. Harmony Bentonhouse at CSU in Colorado is doing, some really interesting work on looking at the metabolomics of malt flavor and how it's evolving over the process of fermentation. So I think in the future here, in the next several years, we're going to see a lot of really cool data come out telling us more about this. And I think we're going to gain more insight and understanding about it as we continue to push that discussion and about flavor and terroir and all that. And reason 4, which I've already led into with what I was saying, innovation, quality. We've got wonderful people at these malt quality labs, which some of you may have been on our webinar yesterday. We had Hannah and Aaron and Katie, all from the labs here in North America, talking about how to get more meaning out of your malt analysis. And so it's really great that our organization, we're very closely working with these people at the malt quality labs to help continue to get that education and information out to our maltster members and to help them maintain that high quality product that they're producing. So some of the ways that the Guild helps craft maltsters and in turn brewers and distillers kind of tell this story of craft malt is through the Craft Malt Certified Seal. This is a program that we launched in 2019, September 2019, and it's a trademarked seal that we the Guild own. It's intellectual property of ours, but we license it to brewers and distillers to communicate the use of and support for distinctive locally produced raw materials. So brewers and distillers are putting this seal on packaged product, taproom signage, and marketing materials. As you can see here on the slide, there's, people are putting taproom tacker signs around their tap handles. Breweries are putting it on their can labeling. We've even got a big name like New Belgium using this seal now, which is like huge. And so I'm really excited about that. And then there's even people like Iron Mule Brewery here. If you look really close, you can see the craft malt seal on the back window of their pickup. It's like, I love seeing brewers, doing this and really showing the world that they care about craft malt, and that their beers and other spirits that they're drinking are made with locally produced ingredients. It's wonderful. Currently, we have about 140 breweries and distilleries participating in the Craft Malt Seal program. You can see they're as far south as Florida and as far north as Alaska. We're coast to coast with this thing, and I know 140 doesn't sound like a lot when you think that you look, if you look at like the numbers on the number of breweries, 8,000 plus in the U.S. currently, but I feel like it's for where we're at a year past, launching this program, it's really starting to pick up momentum. We've seen a lot of interest in it over the pandemic, as the interest in supporting local communities and local businesses was really brought to the forefront because of just the struggles that local businesses were facing during the pandemic. It really made people want to support their local community a lot more. And I think craft malt kind of benefited from that a little bit. So, and really that's a good thing. Ways that brewers and distillers are telling the craft malt story. We have folks like Print Shop Beer Co. in Knoxville, Tennessee, that are just putting it right there on their beer board for everybody to see. They've basically written, they're a proud craft malt certified brewery. This other brewery in Heliotrope Brew, they're in Virginia. They actually created like this series of marketing kind of pieces to put right at the entrance of their tasting room, talking about a journey to the origin of your beer. And they talked about the malts used, the beer style and the malts used. That's really cool. And then even folks like Lantern Brewing, they're even going as far as to say craft malt makes craft beer. And that quote I shared earlier in the presentation was actually from this blog post from Chris Engdahl at Lantern Brewing, talking about why he chooses craft malt. So it's great to see brewers putting that out there to their customers and showing, just being upfront with it. Some of the things that we've heard from brewers about the seal, Trevor Jones, Scepter Brewing Arts in Decatur, Georgia, says the seal offers a great way for us to communicate the value of craft malt to our customers. It starts the conversation we want to have about sourcing locally, creating unique flavor experiences, and justifying price points. And Dan Wade, head brewer at Wooden Robot Brewery in Charlotte, North Carolina, says, we believe the foundation for all craft beer begins at the hands of our farmers. It has been our goal at Wooden Robot Brewery to use a majority of local malt to support not only local businesses, but our overall economy and community as well. We are proud to be a craft malt certified brewery. And they go on to say they source over 95% of their malts from Epiphany Craft Malt. It's just really cool to see brewers, really getting behind the products that they're using and also supporting the agricultural, economy as well. And I think the big part here is, for me, is the big takeaway is, brewers recognizing that beer is really an agricultural product at its core, and getting back to those origins help to tell a more full and full and just more vibrant picture of what beer is, what spirits are, and just kind of the whole journey that it takes to create these things and put them in the glass in front of you. To wrap it up, We have some free craft malt resources that the Guild makes available to anybody. Craft Malt Finder is our kind of page that we just maintain a running list of all the member malt houses that we work with. They directly linked back to their website or their Facebook page. And then the Craft Malt Certified Seal program, that is not free, but it is, I don't know why I put it under the free resources, honestly. But it is a program that we are trying to push and get more brewers and distillers involved with. And it is, to be involved in the seal program, you must be a Guild member, either an individual brewery or distillery member. It's $150 a year. And then basically the seal is a free benefit on top of your membership. But Guild members also have access to malting classes and workshops, bi-monthly educational webinars like the malt quality one we did yesterday, malt sensory educational resources. And we have an educational video and webinar archive of over 100 plus videos you can check out, featuring topics on malting, brewing, and distilling. And members also get discounts on our events, such as the Craft Malt Conference and our 4-day advanced class in craft malt production. And if you're interested in becoming a member, you can go to craftmalting.com/membership and get your membership started. And I'll just finish with a thank you to Ryan and Dean for having me today. And here's my contact info if you're interested in getting in touch with me, and also information on how to find the Guild on social media. And our website's craftmalting.com. Happy to answer questions, or I wasn't paying attention to the chat box because I was just talking so much. So what do we got for questions?
Thanks a lot, Jesse. I just, there is a couple questions in the chat, but I just wanted to point out about the craft malt seal. There's a lot of warm and fuzzy surrounding that whole thing for me, but I think what makes me feel the happiest about it is that it's like a direct manifestation of the relationship that craft beverage producers, brewers, and distillers have with their maltster. So it's not, you know, it's awesome that they're holistically supporting local agriculture and the movement, but I think it really highlighted it in that statement about Epiphany Craft Malt, that it's the result of this really, really strong relationship that they've built, and that it makes me feel a little warm and fuzzy about it.
Aw. It's like,
I have a question following up on that, Ryan, if I could.
I'm looking at the Maple Grill here in Hemlock. Yes,
Yep, as far as I know, they're the only ones so far.
they are the only craft malt certified brewery in Michigan to date at this point. They work with Great Lakes Malting.
Yep. What was your question, Brooke?
I was just wondering what the criteria are for using the seal. Is there a certain like amount, like percentage of the grain bill that needs them, or what?
The baseline for us is you have to use at least 10% or more craft malt of your annual malt purchases.
Oh, so it's like brewery wide. So if you do that, then you can put it on every product that you make. Even if
Well, it depends on the brewery and the way they want to use it. So we have different variations of the seal. We have a craft malt certified brewery seal and a craft malt certified distillery seal, but we also have a craft malt certified beer or a craft malt certified spirit seal. So for example, New Belgium, they're a really big brewery. They don't buy, 90% craft malt, because it's just not feasible for them to source all their malt from a craft maltster because they brew so much beer. But what they've done with Old Tuffy, their lager that they produce at their North Carolina brewery, is they've said, we're going to make this beer craft malt certified. And this particular beer is made with X percentage of craft malts. And so that's kind of the way that a larger regional brewery is using it to designate a specific product as craft malt certified. But yes, for a lot of the smaller to mid-sized breweries that are using craft malt and are using larger percentages of it, they're going to be just across the board saying, yeah, we're a craft malt certified brewery because we're using this in all of our beers to some percentage or another. In some of them, I think our range really goes from when people sign up for this, it really runs the gamut. We have people that say, oh, we use 30% craft malt, and we have breweries that are 100% craft malt in the program. So but 10% was kind of the baseline we set. And we feel like that is a achievable kind of number for specifically for like larger regional breweries to kind of create those dedicated specific beers or spirits in that regard.
Gotcha. I'm going to sneak in another question quick before the chat opens up. How did you determine, or what do you use to determine the 500-mile radius for being a craft maltster?
I'll have to be honest with you. I don't know how they determined that. I've only been in this position for about a year and 3 months, and those guidelines that for what defines craft malt were set way before I came on board. So I would have to get back to you on that question.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, we do have several questions in the chat now.
Yeah. Do you know total annual craft malt production in Michigan? I do not.
That is a good question. So I don't know a concrete answer to that, but the two, capacity-wise, the top two producers of craft malt in Michigan are Great Lakes Malting and Empire. They're right around 100 short tons per year of malt production. Are they operating to capacity? That I wouldn't know.
Yeah. There's, well, the other thing is, like, so we have 3 malt house members in Michigan. You forgot Larry Judge at Penn State. But there's other malt houses in Michigan that aren't members of our guild that I don't even know about or don't know what they're producing. So yeah, it's hard for me as a for our organization to pinpoint that when, you know, we're only tracking mostly what our who our members are with that we're in. Yeah. Blech. Now I'm just word vomiting.
So it's just Larry, Allison, and Jeff that are members of the guild within Michigan?
Allison, Jeff, and Larry at Penn State.
That's a question I've been meaning to ask, but I was actually waiting until it was like travel time and I'm fully vaccinated before I make the rounds as a board member and all that. But yeah, looks like I'll be beating the bushes with some folks.
Yeah. How does the guild educate members about safety? We do educational webinars. We have that educational video archive with lots of videos there. We have this book that Ryan just put a link to in the thing. It's our quality and safety manual. You can buy this on our website. It's I think $29.99. But I have lots of these in my storage closet downstairs. So if you want one, let me know.
I think we have a couple reviewers of that manual on this call as well.
Probably. Do you expect the craft malting industry to bounce back as the nation reopens? How much damage was done to the industry in general due to COVID-19? So we haven't done a COVID impact survey for a while. I think the last one I did was in August or September. So I don't have any recent data on that, but I can say just in general from just what I hear and from my members and just people that are involved in craft malt, I would say, yes, the COVID-19 industry initially affected sales. They went down a little bit. And there were a handful of maltsters that closed up shop or whatever, for whatever reason. But it wasn't a big number. It was only maybe less than 5. And overall, it seems like everybody's kind of been able to just get by. And then as we're starting to see these vaccine rollouts and, spring's coming, I know Brent down at Riverbend Malt was saying, he's like, we're just getting calls for malt off the hook. It's everybody's excited to get back to brewing because they're anticipating this huge kind of resurgence of people wanting to go out to drink at breweries and whatnot. So I'm hopeful that the craft malting industry is going to continue to bounce back. I don't feel like we've had it as hard though as some other industries. So I think because maltsters are smaller, they're more adaptable and can deal with the industry kind of, the fluctuations in the supply chain a little bit better than say the larger companies who, initially were like, oh, we have to cut grower contracts and we have to do this. And craft maltsters didn't really do that, but they're just more nimble and more adaptable. It's a smaller business, I think.
So the next question I believe here is from Jeff actually, and it's a good question that I also do not have an answer for.
I don't have an answer for that either.
Yeah, are any farmers, maltsters, or brewers or distillers still working with Spartan barley?
Aaron
don't
McLeod's
think so.
shaking his head no.
No,
We have pretty good coverage, in our client base. Haven't seen it. Apart from a couple of very early experiments, I think that the market really speaks, right? And so it's obviously they weren't able to sort of compensate in a marketing approach for the relatively poor brewing properties by modern standards. That's a tough trade-off, right? 72% extract and 50% protein. You have to really have a compelling marketing angle. The same thing happened in Ontario. They did sort of resurrect this heritage barley called OAC 21, and they sprinkled a few kernels into a few cans of beer, but these are tough sell. They're interesting notionally, but I think practically we didn't see a market.
It didn't yield very well either.
no.
Well, it's 100-year-old technology, right? It was technology at the time. And I think conceptually we have to remember that, right? Like, but this was a phenomenal malting barley in 1905. Yeah, well, the bar was lower, right? And I'm sure it was. And the Model T was incredible technology at the time. But I think it's difficult to sort of innovate in an industry like ours, right? By going necessarily to the past. And we've seen success with Chevalier. Crisp has launched a product with Chevalier, but that's a much different scale of a business and a much different narrative. And so if they can have success, great. But it's like saying, well, Ford is going to revolutionize by bringing back the Model T. I don't really see it as innovating.
I agree with all of that. Although I have to say that low yield isn't necessarily the deal breaker here. Maris Otter does not yield well, but there's a huge market for it. People will pay for it, and growers are offset by their low yields are offset by being paid to grow it. So Spartan might yield like 30, 35 bushels per acre in Michigan, but generally we get 50 bushels per acre out of something like Common or Pinnacle. So it wasn't that far off the mark. Extremely low extract and extremely high protein are deal breakers for sure. And then Chevalier, actually, speaking of which, the John Ennis Center is looking at Chevalier because it has exceptional fusarium resistance. So not to say that Spartan necessarily has equivalent desirable characteristics for breeding purposes, but bringing back something like Chevalier for that purpose is much more valuable, in my opinion, than just extract per acre. So the value proposition is different. And Spartan did a great job at getting people really excited about local agriculture and cereal grains, and that's not easy to do.
Ryan, you're wrong. It's purely correlated with the success of the Michigan State basketball team. That's all it is.
All about sports ball. I always forget that. Anyway, my Spartan rant is over. So yeah, actually, Jesse, I have a question. Craft Malt Con this year was awesome, and it was one of the best online events that I attended, and I actually forgot for a little while that I was attending a virtual conference that I really wish would be in person and everything, and actually had a good time, and that's not easy to do. So kudos for that. But we're hopeful about Craft Malt Con 2022. You want to give us a sneak peek on?
Yeah, we're all hopeful about that. At this point, we have a venue determined and dates, and that's about all the more information I can give you at this point. But it'll be in Portland, Maine at the Holiday Inn, and it's going to be on February 18th and 19th, 2022. As you know, COVID-19 continues, and we have to wait and see what the local regulations look like, and wait and see what happens with the pandemic and the vaccine rollout. So we probably won't be announcing like any concrete details on this until probably like August, I'm gonna say. kind of, that's what we typically really open registration in September. So I imagine we'll start kind of talking about, the logistics and what the event's going to really look like close around the summertime. But we're kind of at this point, we're just like kind of up in the air. We know for a fact, we want to make it hybrid. So we want to do a hybrid event where sessions are virtually streamed and available live to people to view through like a platform like Crowdcast or StreamYard. But we also want to have an in-person experience as well. So there will be some kind of technical challenges we're going to have to figure out, like how do you stream live seminars and stuff like that. But I think it's doable, and the technology today allows us to do such things. So it's my hope that we can kind of offer two types of registration. One, a virtual only registration, and then also an in-person. And of course, the in-person one would be more expensive because it's including live actual in-person events and food and all that on top of it. But what we think we really saw, with the whole virtual aspect, that it creates, there's an accessibility that it makes craft malt more accessible to everyone. And we're all about wanting to make craft malt a more equitable, inclusive, and diverse space for our community, like for humans as well. So I think making our event, at least offering a virtual component to participate, allows that to be more equitable and inclusive across the board. And so definitely, like, you'll be seeing some things to that effect when we do announce registration, and I'm hoping we can have it in person. I mean, fingers crossed. But
Yeah, same here too. It definitely recharges my batteries when I get to gather with everyone in person. But I really dig the lowering of barriers that comes with a virtual event too.
I was really just, I think like it was proof. The proof was there in the attendance. We had the most well-attended conference we've ever had through this virtual format, 265 people, versus last year's in-person craft malt conference was like 200-ish, or just over 200 people. So that was cool. And, and just the geographic distribution of folks, like we had people from like 7 continents. I mean, there were people from South America, Australia, South Africa, Europe, even Japan and China. And so, yeah, you're seeing people from all over the world being able to participate in it. Obviously, the timing of sessions makes it a challenge for some folks in other time zones, but because we use Crowdcast, which was this great kind of platform that automatically records the whole thing and then has it available for replay like immediately after, people could just catch up and watch it whenever they wanted. So yeah, I'm really excited about continuing to offer a virtual kind of component to the conference going forward.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'll do everything I can to be there in person, but like I said, being there virtually is actually surprisingly great.
Well, yeah.
I don't know why I was surprised, but
and it's also it could make it more accessible to smaller malt houses who may not have the budget to send their entire teams. They could maybe send one representative to the in-person event and then sign up the rest of their staff for the virtual event. It's hopefully it'll make it more accessible too, and with budget-wise, like for people like that to be able to send more of their staff, whether it's in a virtual capacity or in person.
Definitely. So we have a question from Brooke about, have you seen any advances in craft malt being used more as a food ingredient?
Okay, so yeah, there's a little bit of that going on. We have some malt house members that are venturing into making sprouted grain flours, and so that's one thing that I'm seeing. We also have an allied trade member up in Minnesota that she works with a lot of local breweries and distilleries and takes spent grain and repurposes into a spent grain flour. So they're actually taking there's a co-op in Minneapolis, St. Paul, where all the breweries and distilleries, like they basically pull all of their spent grain. And then this company called Net Zero has this technology that they're able to basically dry out the spent grain, remove all the moisture from it, and then they grind it up like flour, and they blend it with already all like already ground flour. So, because you can't use 100% spent grain flour for baking, but they're doing like a 20-80 mix of spent grain to regular flour, and marketing that as an upcycled upcycled food product. So there's some cool stuff with malt in the food kind of world too. And a lot of our malt houses too are venturing into doing, flour milling and getting stone ground mills and things like that. Rustic Brew Farms in Ohio is one that's doing that and being quite successful. Wyoming Heritage Grains down in Powell, Wyoming, Sarah Wood. And I know there's several others that I'm forgetting, but yeah, lots of stuff going on there too.
Yeah, that's something I'd like to see more of, at least in Michigan.
I think there's an opportunity there with the upcycled food product side with spent grains. I mean, especially in urban areas, there could certainly be, an opportunity if you have a lot of breweries in an urban area and they don't have, a viable outlet for their spent grains. There's an opportunity there to take them and upcycle them into a product, especially if there was a malt house already running like a flour mill. Wouldn't that be cool to upcycle spent grains from your own malt back into your flour?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So very timely question from Chris here. So Chris is actually dealing with berries. So he wants to know how he can help support. He's not a maltster at this time, he's a baker, but he heard about us through Andrea and Christian at Valley Malt / Ground Up Grains in Hadley, Massachusetts. And he just put his sourdough in the fridge. So how can Chris help support?
Well, you could just tell the story of craft malt to your friends. That's a good place to start. If you have local breweries or distilleries you frequent, ask them if they use craft malt. Ask them where they get their malt. Ask them what barley variety their malt is. That'll really get them thinking. But really, ask those questions. Brewers love that. And that's a good place to start. Other ways you can support, obviously, if you wanted to, you could become a member of our organization. Our individual membership category would be ideal for you. It's $150 a year and you'd have access to all the same things that all of our other members do. So that's another way. And if you have any craft maltsters in your area, support them financially. Sounds like you already are. So
You maybe sponsor Andrea's arm wrestling career if she's still doing that.
She hasn't hung up her hat there yet. No.
Yeah, craft brewing is huge in Connecticut. There's a bunch of them that certainly has gotten us through the pandemic, and you'll love this. So I just mentioned I do bread. It's 100 miles for me to go up to see Andrea and Christian. So I got 150 pounds from them a few months ago. So my neighbor goes to the local brewers, Tribus. So he trades me craft beer for a loaf of bread.
I love it. Bartering is
We're supporting you all over down here.
I love it. And that's great. I believe in Connecticut, there is another maltster there, Thrall family malt. Spencer Thrall is his name. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't remember the city that they're in, but
Windsor.
Thrall family malt. What is it?
Windsor, Connecticut.
Oh, Windsor. Yep.
You should definitely look him up. He's a 12th or something generation family farm. They claim to be one of maybe the oldest continuously operated farms in America. They were shade tobacco growers more recently, but the shade tobacco business, has changed. And so they really needed another value add. And shade tobacco is very hard. That is a specialty product. They transitioned a lot of acres to grain. They're incredible farmers, the Thrall family. And he has, I believe, 3 drum malting systems from the Maltster Advantage company and are doing
I was a tobacco picker. My family farm is in Windsor, Connecticut. They're one of my members.
Okay.
And they are the longest running farm in the United States. Windsor's the first town in Connecticut. My family came a lot later. I'm up the river from them. Great people. It was just awesome to see this tobacco land. As Aaron said, the market fell out on it. competition from Central America. And they were able to go into grains, and their land is worth a fortune. It's near Bradley International Airport. But if you
Wow.
farm in Connecticut like we do, the assessment is farmland. So it's beautiful. I never thought I would stand in a field of barley in Connecticut and see a grain bin. This doesn't happen, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Not until lately.
Not until
Well,
craft
Oh,
malt.
you got me excited there. That's where I grew up.
wow.
Washington Island's my second farm. So
I'd love to come see you, but you answered the question because my job, I flew a lot. So I was up and down to Bradley every couple of weeks, whatever. I do 75,000 air miles a year. And the drying barns, they had for sale signs on them, and they started taking down. And I mean, I didn't understand the story of it. I knew that Connecticut
sad.
tobacco was prized for the outer wrapping on a cigar, I believe. But
it's the best wrapper. But what Thralls did though, they had a processing building. They were no longer using it. They're really out of the shade ground. They're just doing some broadleaf, which is really a shame. It was a great industry. Here they had this building. It was empty. It's a beautiful malt house. Annie's added on, and they seem to be doing quite well. And then actually, I love it. It's a way to preserve some farmland in Connecticut. They don't have a long-term easement on it, but at least they're not going to stop farming. They found something else great to do, and it's in our industry. And he said I said, I never thought I'd have a member in Windsor. And he said he never thought the president of AMBA would be in Windsor. So kind of cool for me. Sorry, I just got all excited about this because, they're right down the river from my little farm. We got 20 acres there.
Nice.
wow. Can I go visit them? Can I visit you?
You can come visit. Well, Chris, we'll get connected, okay?
Great.
I haven't
I'd love
flown
to.
since. Hey, okay, last time I flew, I saw Jessie. I was in DC. I had breakfast with her. We lobbied. They shut down Washington 2 days later.
Yes.
I got a horrible cold from her. I thought I had COVID. I flew up to the Connecticut farm. I just had a horrible cold. I flew to Milwaukee. I came to Washington Island farm. I didn't leave almost for a year. I've been a hermit. Like I said, I'm coming out tonight. So you come on up, Chris. We'll hook up and like to see my farm. I'm going to be coming back soon again. Like to see what you're doing too. It's a small state. Everything's close.
Yeah, it is. I'd love to meet you.
Yeah.
So we'll
Very
figure
good,
out a
Chris.
way.
We'll do it.
Well, hopefully, Chris, too,
Hey,
you can.
good happy hour.
Hopefully, Chris, maybe, if we end up in Portland, Maine, for the next Craft Malt Conference, you can come up and join us.
That's another beautiful area. It's not too bad away. Yep.
Cool. Do you have any more questions?
There's some other folks too. I'm gonna forget the name of it. I've been doing a lot of these podcasts, and I mean, it might be applicable. I'm on the spot. So there's a couple chefs up there too, and one's just over the line in Maine. Oh, I can't think of the name of it. Farmer's Dinner, like these New Hampshire farmers dinners, and they're doing dinners with and I think on the farms. So I know it's not totally what y'all are doing, but it's still agricultural, it's still tradition, and I just love all that stuff. So again, I'll figure out a way to get you that name too. I look it up. I
Cool.
don't think it might be Nashua, New Hampshire. It's right on the main line. So maybe they could contribute to your conference as well, because seems like a really progressive chef. If you put a menu together using some of your ingredients, or heck, I'd help with that too. That's what I've done all my life, is cook. So
Nice.
now I'm baking more, but either way.
Wonderful.
Awesome. I just dropped my email in the chat, Chris. I love dinner. As I
Cool. Love it.
Cool. Any questions from anyone else about craft malt? Washington Island? Cigars?
Cigars. I do like a good cigar.
Guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for attending. Thank you, Jessie, for being here.
Yeah.
Conversation.
We had 16 people at one point, so I felt like that was a good audience.
It's been revolving, like, so it's not been the same 16 people. That's always the most interesting part.
That's good. Well, Mike, thank you for helping promote it to the NBIC folks this last week, because I know you really were helping put the word out about it. And we also did share it on social, though I don't know if that was very effective, seeing how most of the people here are like probably on this list already. Yeah.
Jesse, thanks for your help. And Mary Jane, seeing you for your help with lobbying. We are lobbying by email. Right now, headquarters is up on Washington Island, and it's very relaxed. I do all the work, and then I will copy like Jesse or Mary Jane, like for Montana, or where there's a bunch of craft maltsters, and like Mary Jane for Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin. She's now she's the chair now of Senate Ag Appropriations. So thank you, Jesse. And MJ, I want to thank you. I can see you, and I've been thanking you with the emails, but we're trying to get more money for our Barley Pest Initiative, another 4.2 million. And if there's money available, I think we're very well positioned because it's the second year. We got a lot of supporters, so looking good.
Yeah, we funded the first part. Now we just got to get the rest.
And it's something that really all of us could get behind. That's the thing with research. It's not kept in little silos where, something that's good for, a craft maltster versus a commercial maltster. In terms of research, it all builds together. And so, that's why I think having that kind of cross-functional team that we have when we go in to Congress or through these letters like we have to do this year, I think it's really good to see different perspectives on, giving our growers the best chance, possible of reducing risk and getting a good deal for their crop. And so, really enjoyed that work with my colleagues, big and small.
It's good to see you, Mary Jane.
I just want to share one thing. It's interesting because, and they're involved, I have offered every office a virtual meeting. However, because it's a second year and we do it so well, I let them off the hook. I just say, well, we'll have one if you think it's needed. And you guys probably read that who are helping me. And, we'll do it if you really want to, but you supported it. And everybody begs off and I said, well, we're all zoomed out. They are really, Congress is zoomed out. I mean, everybody's biting at the bit. We're all biting at the bit tonight. That's why I'm going to the middle bar shortly. And hopefully I get out of there. But it'll be fun. I think let's hope everything goes good and Portland happens next year. Jesse, I'll be retired. My daughter lives in Portland. If you can, I could maybe come on out and visit and speak or something. So keep it in mind.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be definitely over the next few months. We will be digging into the discussion of speakers and topics to cover. So for next year, so we'll keep you in mind.
I'll just be I'll be a barley grower with no budget. So that's my barley there. So keep that in mind. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks again, everybody. It's been a good session. Next week, we have Dr. Manny Singh from Michigan State University, and he's going to talk about management techniques and practices for optimal yield and quality in both barley and wheat. So that'll be interesting stuff, and he's got some current research to present, nice and fresh.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for having me, Ryan. And I guess when the recording of this is up and available, let me know. We'll share it on social.
Absolutely. Yep. It'll probably be up Monday morning. I like to give it a little bit of time for me to edit, and just in case, something weird happens.
Sounds good. But yeah, we'll share it on the Craft Malt Guild channels because we love to share things.
Awesome. Right. Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Thanks, Jesse.